Hi, everyone. I'm sorry for the brief delay. For those of you who don't know, our office is located in Roosevelt Field Mall, and we're on lockdown right now. So we did have a little bit of an issue this morning. I want to just give an introduction to the topic. Today we're going to be discussing the Prescription Monitoring Program Registry and your obligations to comply with some new requirements that have come into place for checking that registry. Today we're going to go through some basic questions and answers on your obligation and how you can delegate that obligation, and also access and what you should be doing from a compliance standpoint. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jennifer Kirschenbaum. I'm a healthcare attorney in Garden City, Long Island, New York, as we've already covered, and I specialize in representing practitioners in their day-to-day, specifically their contracts, their issues with their employees, licensure issues with OPMC or OPD, so prescriptions fall into there, and litigation matters and pretty much everything else our law firm handles. Okay, so I'm going to get right into the program. I'm going to try to make this not a long program, hopefully less than half an hour for those of you on a lunch break. And any questions, you can feel free to email me or call me offline, and we can go over specific questions on this topic or anything else that might be going on. So first to start, what is the registry? The registry is an electronic system for collecting, monitoring, and reporting information concerning prescribing, dispensing of controlled substances. It basically is going to contain all the history of a patient for the controlled substance prescriptions for the last at least 6 months, which we'll get to. Who has to check the registry? Every single practitioner at any level of licensure that has the ability to prescribe or dispense any Schedule II, III, or IV controlled substance. Now, of course, I'm an attorney. I'm not a medical practitioner. I do not prescribe medications, and I'm not familiar with the schedules for the controlled substances, as well as each of you are who's listening that does have the ability to prescribe. I recommend that you make a mental list or physical list of your top prescribing, and you double check these links at the New York State Department of Health website and confirm whether or not your drugs that you are prescribing to patients on a regular basis or period at all fall under Schedule II, III, or IV as a controlled substance. Please be advised that these schedules do change, and you should check them on at least, I'd say, a biannual basis, at least twice a year, to just double check that you're familiar with whether or not what you're prescribing qualifies for checking the registry. If you have not already done so, we're going to just cover here how you sign up for the registry, which you are required to check, again, for any controlled substance in Schedule II, III, or IV that you are prescribing to your patients. You're going to go to this site to develop a Health Commerce account. Now, why did I say you may already have one? I've received a lot of calls from practitioners upset that they're trying to sign up for a new account. They've never signed up before. Why would they? They've never accessed the registry, and they cannot sign up, and the system is telling them they have a pre-existing account. This account is not just for the registry. You're also using this account, for an example, to update your physician profile, which you're required to do on a regular basis, and failure to do so is actually professional misconduct. So you may have this account already. You may have already forgotten about it, that you do have it. And if you do have it and you can't remember your password, here's the phone number that you should be calling to speak with someone at the state, so that way you can obtain your password that you may already have gotten previously in the past and you just don't remember. So the number is 866-529-1890. You're selecting option 1. You may be on hold for a while. I've had to call this number already myself, and someone will pick up. So keep trying, or you can have a designated individual in your office. They may require to speak with the prescribing provider before they give out the password information, but certainly keep trying. I just put this on here so you can see in case you haven't actually accessed the registry yet, and we'll go through some quick preliminaries, and then we'll move on to some more detail. But here's the website that you're going to reach the registry. It's at commerce.health.state.my.us. And you can log straight into the system there. You'll see some options that'll say NYS PMP Registry. And once you click on the Prescription Monitoring Program Registry, you'll open that program, and you'll be able to enter the patient name and any other additional required information right into your computer. Of course, having a computer is a requirement for complying with this new requirement here with the registry. So when do I not have to check the registry? This is obviously a key question that we get from everyone, and we're going to go through them carefully so that way you understand your obligation when you do have to check. When you're actually administering a controlled substance directly to a patient, you do not have to check. When you're actually using the controlled substance at an institutional dispenser or emergency department of a general hospital, provided that the quantity that you're giving of the controlled substance does not exceed a 5-day supply and is used in accordance with the directions for use of the controlled substance. When you are prescribing to a hospice patient, you are not required to check the registry. When it is not reasonably possible for you to check, and no one else who's authorized can check for you, and you are not prescribing more than a 5-day supply. Now, when they say not reasonably possible to check, this has to be legitimate. It can't be that your Wi-Fi is down for presumably 5 or 10 minutes and you have patients coming in. You would arguably be able to find someone else who could check for you. If we are in the middle of a hurricane and power is out to the majority of Manhattan and things are in disarray, but you happen to be in your office, obviously there it would be unreasonable to require you to check if the whole system is down, which we'll get to a little bit further down on this list. I would still recommend that you document in your record that you did attempt to check, and at a later date and time you should go back and actually pull that patient's information and just make sure that you're conforming with your compliance requirement. So when the registry, again, is not operational, as determined by the Department of Health, or where it can't be accessed due to a temporary technological or electrical failure, you're given a pass. When granted a waiver due to technological limitations, you are not required to check. Now, be advised, this is for exceptional circumstances only, and you would actually have to have a waiver that you would have to apply for you not to have to comply with the registry requirement. Information will be on the registry for no less than 6 months and no more than 5 years for each patient. Now, I've received a number of calls from our clients and practitioners that information on the registry is not correct. The obligation of maintaining the registry falls on the New York State Department of Health. And so that is not your responsibility for the registry to be correct. We'll get to a phone number later on that you can call if you want to report anything that you think is amiss with the registry, which I would recommend you doing. And we'll move on now, I guess. So can you delegate to your staff checking the registry? The answer is absolutely yes, you can. An individual at your practice is authorized, so long as you give them that authority, to go on under your name and your password and check the registry. This individual should be authorized by you and competent. It should be someone who's been with you for a while who you can trust, someone who has signed your in-office policies on patient confidentiality and your employee handbook, which you hopefully have in place, and that individual would be authorized to go on and check. Remember, the registered practitioner is always responsible for proper registry usage. And if a designee that you've authorized is terminated or leaves for any reason, you are required to contact the Department of Health and protect registry access by changing your password is what I would recommend. Now, the individual that you're going to authorize, I would recommend doing that in writing, having a record, have this individual sign off on their new position and appointment, so that way it's clear that they accept this responsibility and they'll take it seriously. I also would recommend that you do adopt a policy relating to this, which we'll get to later, and I'll explain a little bit more about what the policy has in it when we get to it. But I think that that's a good thing for every practice to have, and it helps evidence your compliance. So that's actually our slide here. How should you document that you check the registry? Well, you're going to do it by making a notation in the patient's medical record. And I would recommend explaining your thought process, especially if you're going to be denying a prescription to a patient based on their prior prescription history. You want to make sure that you put in the note that the registry was checked, you believe that the patient has adequate medication, and that additional prescribing would be inappropriate in your professional medical judgment, and that must be written out in the chart. I've had questions asked about whether or not I think it's a good idea to have your EMR company or your tech support build that in as a function of your EMR system. I would say I'd be really careful here because the weight of the determination on whether or not to prescribe the controlled substances is in your independent medical judgment. You want to make sure that you're writing a unique note if you do decide to deny, or if you are granting based on the prescription history in the registry. So I'd be careful about having a uniform kind of check here or check off there if you are or not prescribing based on the registry. So just a comment for you. I would consider printing each report on the registry for each patient. Obviously, that's the easiest way to show compliance is if you build in the registry reports into your medical record. If you're able to do that and you have the staff, that would be a great way to show compliance. Now, the registry access versus registry information, there's a distinction there. Protecting the integrity of the registry by not sharing your password is a good idea and one that I would recommend, but separate from the information once it's printed. Once the registry information is printed, it is protected health information, just like other information that's in a patient's chart. So this delegated person that you're going to possibly have in your office that has authority to check the registry, that's different from when the information is actually printed. One of your medical assistants or other staff members who has agreed to patient confidentiality is certainly at liberty to assist in the filing process or whatever process you adapt to putting the registry report into a patient chart. So I want to be clear on that distinction. Adopting a practice policy for your prescription monitoring program registry requirement is an excellent idea. It's something I think every practice should have, and it basically details in writing how you will adhere to your requirements under the monitoring program. And it talks about who can be delegated to and what's going to happen if that individual leaves and what the practice does to adhere. And what this does is it creates a written record of your compliance. And if someone were to come in, let's say OPMC or OPD, were to investigate you for inappropriate prescribing, you have a drug-seeking patient who comes in, and let's say that you did decide to prescribe OxyContin for whatever the reason is, and this patient winds up overdosing either on that or some other prescription medication, and there's an inquiry into the death. This is not an uncommon situation. It certainly arises on a fairly regular basis, and you're in the record as a prescribing physician, and they come in and look at you. You're going to say, well, you checked the registry, and in your independent medical judgment, you believe that the prescription was warranted. Okay, well, how do we know you checked? Hopefully there's a record in the note that you did check. You made a documentation in there, and you explained yourself on why you prescribed. If not, maybe you printed the report, maybe not. Let's say you missed both those things. If you have a policy on file where this is how you operate, then your answer can be, and I can defend the answer of, this is my regular practice. Well, doctor, how do I know at OPMC this is your regular practice? Because this is my policy, this is how I operate in each instance before I prescribe a Schedule 2, Schedule 3, or Schedule 4 substance. And without that written policy in place, I will not have a leg to stand on that is what you do on a daily basis. So it is really incredibly useful, not to mention that it is an operational policy and one that I hope that you do actually abide by once you adopt it. So we'll talk about how you can get that from our firm later. How do I get access to the registry? We covered that before, but I just want to put this up again. This is a website. It's the Health Commerce Teamwork One. I don't have to read the whole thing, but you can see it. So if you're not checking the registry yet, you should start religiously for any Schedule 2, 3, or 4 controlled substance. Who's checking? Then I'm checking the registry. Now, when I say patients and licensure, do I mean that they're actually checking for you or going on the registry and accessing? No. Patients and licensure are not going to be accessing the registry to see if you've logged in, okay? But checking that you're checking, patients are the ones who are potentially going to be complaining. The majority of licensure complaints are based off of patients. They call and they complain that you're not prescribing them drugs. Typically, in this scenario, that's the most standard. A patient is aggravated that you are not giving them their drugs that they want, and they want to know who they can cause a problem for you with, and that would be licensure. So licensure will be checking the complaints that are made for prescribing or not prescribing, and that could result in an inquiry, which could have a very negative impact. They could look into the practice, and they have a lot of authority, and that could result in something very bad happening if they find that there's a pattern of abuse by the practitioner in prescribing. Of course, suspension, revocation of a license, those are on the table, fines. Like I said, broad-ranging authority. If you get a call or someone showing up at your practice or a letter from licensure or any government agency for that matter, ever, at any time in your career, do not engage with the agency. Contact a competent healthcare attorney immediately and turn the letter over or communication or contact information for whoever's looking into you. You do not want to be speaking directly with a government agency. It could be very, very, very bad, and I'll leave it at that. New York State Department of Health can check that you're checking. They are in charge of operating the registry and certainly have access to and will regularly be monitoring physician access. And New York State Department of Health also has all of your prescription information. So if they start auditing, which I believe they will, for noncompliance, they will be able to tell that you are not checking for patients who you are prescribing controlled 2, 3, and 4 controlled substances for. So there is a way for them to know that you are specifically not complying. If you have a question or a problem with the registry, this is the phone number that I would like you to call, that you're required to call, 866-811-7957, option 1. I'm not promising you they'll be helpful, but there should be a person at the end of the line eventually. Resources for more information on iStop. And actually, before I get to this, let me just see what else we have here. I want to just go through the policy again and just state that it is very important for you to have this on file. It will protect you, and hopefully you're all complying already with your responsibility. So resources, obviously our newsletter, for those of you who are not on it, I want to highlight. I also want to bring you to the New York State Department of Health website. And this is where basically all information is available for you on the Internet system for tracking over prescribing. And you'll see as we scroll down here, there's a very helpful frequently asked questions section here that if you haven't checked out, I do recommend. And it should be up to date. It goes through all of your obligations, most of them at least, and it has some excellent information on how you should be complying with its requirements. So again, this is the New York State Department of Health website, and if you just go into Google and you type New York State DOH iStop, this will come up right away, and it's very, very helpful. Our website, which does have information on this on our newsletter page, we've done a number of things on the prescription monitoring program. You can read about it generally. We also have the iStop policy available on our compliance order form. It's right here under compliance documents. We charge just basically enough for us to put it together for you and send it out. It's $150 for the iStop policy. I recommend that everyone comply with your iStop responsibilities immediately if you are not already. And if you're having any real problems that you need some assistance, you can absolutely always call me. I'm happy to speak with you about it and try to help you to the best of my ability to make sure that you're doing what you need to be doing. Now, one more area I want to address before I sign off on today's webinar is problem patients, patients who are very upset that you are not giving them drugs. Someone who's possibly throwing a bit of a fit at your practice, or if you're working in a hospital in the ER, you should immediately contact the police. That's the advice that I'm giving you, okay? You can call your attorney. We're happy to help and give you advice, but if you have someone who's being threatening or agitated, the police should be called and a record should be filled out, possibly a police report. Now, why do we do that? Well, number one, you're not equipped to handle an aggravated, aggressive, potentially violent patient, as some of the drug-seeking patients do engage in that behavior. And secondly, if you are going to be reported by that patient, we now have a clear record of the incident, hopefully clear, of the incident that happened, and proof that it was based on the denial that you have to licensure. So I'm not sure what that message was. But on that note, I think we've covered the iStop issues that I was looking to cover with you today. And I hope that this was helpful to everyone. And if you have any additional questions for me, I'm certainly happy to answer them at your convenience, and you can send me an email whenever you'd like. Okay, I hope everyone has a great day, and we'll be tuning in, I guess, sometime in the next couple of weeks for additional webinars.